Hey there, Lyssa here, and today's video is really the beginning of an exploration into the 2025 updated ICF Code of Ethics. This video is really going to be sort of an overarching look at why do we even need ethics and what are they all about, and generally just sort of an overview. So on that note, we'll take our ramble, so let's get into it. I would like to share with you a number that just blows my mind, which is right now, 37% of you have subscribed to this channel, and for that, I am grateful. But that also means that 63% of you who are watching this content have not yet subscribed to the channel, and that is a number I would like to change. If you're enjoying this content, the simple, easy thing you can do to help sustain the work that I am doing is to subscribe to the channel. So I want to thank you in advance, and let's get back to the video. So really, why do ethics even matter to coaches? And why does ICF have a code of ethics? And I think there's a couple reasons. I'm going to be sharing an opinion, so ICF may have some differing viewpoints than I do, but I think that one of the reasons why ethics is so important to our profession is that so many people can call themselves a coach. I think there are so many people who are doing consultancy and they're calling themselves coaches. I think there are a lot of people just telling people what to do and calling it coaching. I think a lot of people are just unfamiliar with what coaching really is, because I think we have an abundance of examples of not coaching being called coaching. And as a result of that, because we're unregulated, anybody can call themselves a coach. It's a common theme that I hear amongst coaches. Just anybody can call themselves a coach. And I'm not saying that somebody calling themselves a coach and that means that they're not actually coaching. And I'm not saying that, because I think there's probably some very good coaches who are calling themselves coaches who are not aligned with the ICF, and that's no big deal. But one of the things that I believe ICF is trying to do is, because we have an unregulated industry, and when I say that, what I mean is we don't have a license for working in what is basically the sphere of human beings, things that would impact the human being that you're working with. And so I think one of the reasons the Code of Ethics is so comprehensive for coaches is because in an unregulated industry, there's just a really high likelihood that people don't really understand what coaching is, and that the coach themselves may be confused about their role. Not intentionally, but just because they could be. So I think the purpose of the ethics is to give the profession a more ethical framework, and also to really move it from being just anybody can call themselves a coach to a professional coach, which is a much more credible professional role than I just decided I was a coach today. And no, I don't have a code of ethics. So I think it is for that reason that we have a pretty comprehensive code of ethics. There are many professions that have a code of ethics. I'm a clinical social worker. I have a code of ethics as a social worker, and as a clinical social worker, I have a code of ethics. Doctors, nurses, physical therapists, PAs, honestly, physical therapists, I think I may have said, speech and auditory therapists, pretty much anybody in the medical field is going to have a code of ethics. I know social workers do for sure, because I have a code of ethics that I need to follow. I know therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, all of them they all have a code of ethics. I think other areas that we don't maybe even think about having a code of ethics are things like lawyers, your accountant, your financial advisor, these people who work within arenas where they can have a great deal of impact on the consumer. and the impact could be very negative, have a code of ethics so that they are behaving with a transparency and integrity with the people that they're working with. Some other people I'm thinking of are like real estate agents and real estate brokers. They, because of the large sums of money, people may be investing their entire life savings into the purchase of a home. They have representation through the agent of a real estate agent, and the agent is then supported by a broker. All the way along the way, those people have a code of ethics that says that they have a responsibility to represent you appropriately. I think some other areas too, and I mentioned CPAs, but bankers, CPAs, financial advisors, these people too have a code of ethics to be acting within integrity, but also within the scope of their role. So if you talk to your banker and you say, hey, can you advise me on my 401k, the banker may say, I cannot as your banker, but I can refer you to somebody in our office who is a financial planner. So there's also the sense of the scope of work that the person has the capacity to do. So going back to this, we know as coaches that we don't present ourselves as therapists when we're offering coaching services. Those are two different roles, and we keep them very clear. There are a lot of doctors who are now coaches, but they're not providing medical advice or opinion when they're coaching. And oh yes, also they're a doctor. And if you go into their office for a doctor visit, you'll get the doctor. But if you show up in a coaching session as for the coach, you're going to get a coach and not a doctor. So they're not diagnosing and giving you preventative care in the role of coaching. Or if they are, that's outside of their scope of coaching. So now they do have the scope of being a doctor, so they do have at least that awareness. But it would be like me, I'm a clinical social worker, but honestly, I'm not going to give you medical advice. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. So those are things to consider as you are thinking about why we've got the issue of the wild, wild west. We're unregulated, and so therefore need something to show the world, the consumer, that we are a profession and not just some casual person doing a casual thing. And other professions have a code of ethics because it is integral to the work that they are doing with integrity, and so that they and the people hiring them know their scope. And I think that's really important. I think ethics are honestly a commitment that we make as professional coaches who belong to the ICF. I think if you go to the EMCC, you'll see they have a code of ethics also, that if you're a member there, that you're also following. But it is about how we create an integrity in the way that we act. It's about how we're setting up agreements with the people that we work with. It's about the level of transparency about if this, then that. What's your refund policy? What happens if I threaten to harm myself? How is that going to be handled? And if you're working within an ethical framework, you know to have that sort of paperwork that the person is signing that says, yes, we have an agreement, a contract that says I'll be the coach and you'll be the thinker or client. And that there are some areas where I'm not going to keep a secret for you. You do something illegal, or you threaten to harm yourself, or you threaten to harm somebody else. That there are areas at which point I am not going to be able to maintain confidentiality. These are the areas that I can maintain confidentiality. Excuse the quick interruption, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that you were invited to my monthly Coaches Q&A. It happens every third Monday of the month, and we talk about all things coaching. We talk about coaching demos, we talk about competencies, we talk about what to do with resistant clients, we talk about all sorts of things. Plus, we have an added networking event at the end of it. So you are invited to join this community. I would love to see you there. And on that note, let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. And so the ethics are really, one, so that we do no harm. It's also so that we protect that person and ourselves in case something unexpected shows up. Like, for instance, they do threaten to harm themselves. If you don't have any paperwork on it, you're kind of out there free floating, knowing what you probably need to do, but having a tension between the fact that your contract and agreement doesn't say, if you threaten to harm yourself, I will not joke around with that. I will be notifying the appropriate places to get you the help that you need. I had a client one time as a therapist that was suicidal, and I said, we need to create a safety plan, and I'm going to be doing a check on you later this evening. If you do not answer your phone, I will be calling the police so that they can come and do a welfare check on you. They were very angry at me. And my response to that was, I would much rather you be angry at me than not here. So the reality is, there are times where we may have to make really difficult decisions, and our clients might get angry at us, and it's for their benefit. And if it's written down in our contract, it's clean, clear, and easily understood by both parties. They agreed to it at one point, we're bringing it back. I think agreements are crucial to how we are with each other. For instance, even in my courses where I'm doing trainings, whether it's in mentor coaching or in the Power of Metaphor program, we come up with a list of agreements on how we'll be with each other. It rarely happens, but there's an occasion in which somebody says something that really lands poorly on somebody else. It could have been me, it could have been somebody else in the class, but somebody didn't like what was said. If we have a list of agreements on how we will be with each other, should there be a disturbance in the force, it gives us an opportunity to go back to those agreements and say, here are our agreements. This is how we said we would be with each other. And what else needs to be here in order for both of us to be safe? I think ethics is a two-way safety street. I think it protects the client and the consumer. I think it also protects the coach. We're in alignment on what the ground rules are for our engagement. The code of ethics is more than a rule book. The code of ethics is far more than a rule book. It's really much more of a compass, and it is the map and the compass, if you want to be totally clear about it. I really think that it is a map and a compass so that we know how to navigate the intricacies of human relationships. I don't know who it was who said it. I think it was Carl Jung, but honestly, I'm not sure because I've seen it attributed to him, but then I couldn't find the attribution. So someone once said, anytime you have more than two people in a relationship, it's dysfunctional. And so I think that what our code of ethics and our agreements with the people that we work with does is protect us all. The code of ethics, if you see it as a compass, is really around decision making and how we act with integrity for the benefit of the thinker. It starts with agreements, whether it's with the client or with the sponsor. It is about the levels of confidentiality and legal compliances that we're responsible to. It's about our personal conduct, that we're behaving in a professional manner. We're not trying to date our clients, sort of like a teacher and a student. That is not an acceptable relationship because there's a hierarchy of power. And so the ethics is really there to say, stop coaching this person if you want to start dating them and find them a better coach, a better match for them, and then have a relationship, or don't have a relationship with them. And so there's personal conduct, how I'm going to treat you. I remember a situation with another coach where I had purchased something from them. They had changed their pricing, but they hadn't changed it on their website. So I had purchased something at a different price point, and their response was to call me and tell me I could pay 5 times more because that was the new pricing. So they didn't support their own website, which I chose not to do, but it did leave me going, that's a really interesting way to treat a customer or a potential client in this particular case. And so these things are about how we show up with people. They show up in lots of different ways. And there's nothing wrong with changing your prices. Change your prices. But if you've made the mistake, don't hold the client or consumer responsible for something you didn't think through. How do you fix it? How do you move forward? And how do you honor the agreements that you made, even if it was accidentally with other people? I think there's a piece also about conflicts of interest that we want to be paying close attention to. So for instance, I know on the exam, there's an example of me being your coach and I'm invested in, company A, and you're starting company W, and they're in complete competition. I'm invested in company A. I cannot ethically coach you in company W because honestly, I have a bias towards where I may be making money. That's probably unavoidable. But the other thing is, let's say I said to you, hey, I know you're starting company W, and I need to be really honest with you. I not only work with, but also I'm invested in company A, your direct competition. I need you to know that prior to us doing any conversations about me coaching you. The reason this is important is it stops people from having their time wasted, number one, but also how would you feel if you were hiring me to coach you only to discover that I have an investment and responsibility to an organization that is your direct competition? That would be completely out of ethical alignment based on the ICF Code of Ethics. I mean, honestly, I think it's just out of integrity on multiple levels, and you don't need a code of ethics in order to know that that's probably not the right thing to do. Yet, people do this all the time. We wouldn't have things like insider trading if it wasn't for the fact that people are blowing through ethical responsibilities. If they're not spelled out, we can pretend we don't understand them. So I think it's really important that we have an ethics that spells out things like our professional conduct and our conflicts of interest. There's also the value that we bring to a coaching conversation. And it isn't about you getting, as a client or thinker, it isn't about you getting a specific outcome. Let's say you come because you want to lose 20 pounds. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to lose 20 pounds. There's so much there beyond my control. I'm going to do my best to support whatever's getting in the way that's the food is serving in some way so that you can get past it, so that you can then lose the 20 pounds in some sort of way that fits for you. That's probably a goal, but my value isn't in getting you to lose the 20 pounds. The value is in my capacity to be fully present with you, to really be curious with you, to help you discover what might be getting in the way, where the challenges are for you, and how you might start to play with overcoming them. What skills and strengths and character strengths and value strengths and beliefs do you have that we need to explore that would support you in moving towards what you say is important to you? I would also say, this is just me and as an aside, that this is the reason why we want to have much richer goals than I lose 20 pounds. It's something more like I move with ease and freedom and comfort in my body is a much more powerful goal, because then everything that gets in the way of you moving in the way that you want is going to probably be related to why you're not losing weight. So again, this sense of value is that you're receiving value from the conversations. It doesn't feel like you're just going in circles and circles and circles, but also it's that I'm showing up as a full 100% present thought partner to your process, whatever it is that you're working towards. And then the last part is really about our integrity and accountability as a professional. And so how do we show up with integrity, and how do we make sure that our behavior and the way that we represent ourselves and the way that we communicate with people and the contracts and agreements that we make with people, how do we honor those, even if they're accidental because they went to our website and purchased something and we'd change the price but not change the button. These are things to start to think about. And so I think that having a code of ethics really distinguishes professionals from hobbyists. I think people who are calling themselves coaches, who have not received any training, who do not really understand what coaching is, and who just are calling themselves a coach, going in, telling people what to do. There's nothing wrong with being a consultant, but don't call it coaching, because if you're going to call it coaching, you really need the training. You really need that you have a coaching mindset. That's a part of ethics also. It's part of the foundation, actually, of the competencies. But having this sense of continual growth and development of your craft and practice, and that you are trying to do better today than you did yesterday. And there's a code of ethics that holds you accountable to that. And so that's sort of an overarching view of the ethics. So on that note, please leave comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please disagree if you feel like it, agree if you feel like it. I'd love to hear anything you have to say about it. And on that note, happy coaching.